that the producers, far left-wing activists in Hollywood, are turning on her, and Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances on their media platforms. Kind of tough.
And there is no resolution in sight for the Walt Disney Company when it comes to Snow White 2025 at the box office. This is exactly why Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, is in pure panic mode over not just the Rachel Zegler backlash, but the entire backlash surrounding this movie in general.
So after months of controversy, industry backlash, and fans dragging Disney across the internet, they've officially announced another reboot of Snow White. Yes, again, after the Rachel Zegler version flopped harder than anyone expected, Disney is now calling this new attempt a course correction, which is just a fancy way of saying, yeah, we messed up. Bad. Let's be honest, the last version was less of a movie and more of a lecture, and audiences didn't sign up to be scolded for watching a fairy tale. Now they're trying to quietly clean up the mess with another reboot like nobody's going to notice, but fans aren't forgetting that disaster anytime soon. Disney thought they could rewrite a classic and still keep everyone happy. Spoiler alert, it didn't work, and now they're hitting the reset button like it's a broken video game. This isn't just a reboot, it's damage control.
And just how once trusted critics that shilled for the Disney Company all the time, even they are beginning to turn their back against them. That's how bad this movie truly is. Even if you look at the IMDb rating score, that's when you really know how terrible this movie is and how it really hit rock bottom.
Disney is calling this reboot a renewed tribute to classic storytelling, which sounds nice until you remember they're the ones who trashed the original story in the first place. Now they want to win back audience trust like the last film was just a minor hiccup and not a full-on disconnect with their entire fan base. The Rachel Zegler adaptation was pitched as a modern feminist take on the 1937 classic, but let's be real, it turned into a total rewrite that forgot what made the original timeless. Bold departures from the source material became code for completely ignoring it. Instead of honoring the story, they used it as a platform, and fans saw right through it. This wasn't a modern update, it was a total shift in tone that left longtime viewers wondering what happened to the magic.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
The studio thought they were carving a progressive path forward, but fans were like, nah, this is a joke. Social media lit up when Rachel Zegler made comments that completely dismissed the legacy of the original Snow White, calling the prince character irrelevant and the romance awkward. Those statements went viral and became the hot topics everyone couldn't stop debating. Disney thought they were modernizing the story, but what they really did was butcher the original. Fans weren't just disappointed, they were outright offended. Instead of honoring the classic, they straight up disrespected it, and that was the final straw.
After one hell of a PR tour, Disney's live-action Snow White is finally, I know, you were wondering.
So Disney insiders claim the negative reaction stunned the executives, like they didn't see it coming. Early test screenings were pretty lukewarm, but the full impact didn't hit until the trailer dropped. That's when the real chaos started. Fans, nostalgic viewers, and film critics all jumped into the conversation, frustrated by the drastic changes. Disney thought they were being innovative, but what they actually created was a disaster. Instead of honoring the classic, they butchered it, and fans didn't hesitate to call them out. Now Disney's scrambling, trying to figure out how they turned a beloved classic into a hot mess. The magic completely gone. Instead of a Snow White remake, it felt more like a Snow White funeral.
That despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them,
She's a good actress.
that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
The backlash wasn't just loud, it was a whole drama. Hashtags ripping into Disney's creative decisions trended for weeks like a reality TV show, and Disney's PR teams were running around like headless chickens trying to fix the mess. But let's be real, by the time they even realized the full impact, the damage was already done. Now, to save face, Disney announces a new Snow White project that's set to begin production in late 2025. Really? You're trying to make a comeback with the same thing that already flopped? This sounds more like a desperate attempt to fix their disastrous first try. Fans aren't having it. Where was this new Snow White when you completely trashed the original? Disney's scrambling to salvage their reputation. But the real question is, can they actually pull this off? Or is this just another lame attempt to cover up the mess they made?
And you have parents looking at Disney being like, what are you doing, guys? Like, this is supposed to be place where magic happens, and all you're doing is indoctrinating kids, and you're having this person be the poster child of the Democratic Party.
So Disney's got no official cast confirmed, but they're promising that this remake will bring back the emotional heartbeat and visual style of the original animated classic. Oh really? Now they're talking about restoring the beloved characters, the musical sequences, and the fairy tale atmosphere, the very things critics said were completely missing from the last version. Disney's trying to win back fans with all this talk. But here's the kicker. Why the rush? The last movie flopped hard, and now they're already talking about a new one. It's clear this move has both urgency and high stakes written all over it. But let's be real, is this just another desperate attempt to fix their disaster? Or will they actually manage to deliver something worth watching? Fans are watching closely to see if this new version can truly make up for what went wrong, or if it's just another failed attempt to cover up the mess.
Look no further than what Disney is doing with their woke, DEI, feminist agenda.
Disney's in a tight spot after the string of disappointing live-action remakes that have flopped harder than a bad sequel. Let's be real, they've been falling flat both critically and at the box office. Now, Snow White's legacy is at serious risk of becoming a distant memory, and Disney execs are betting that a carefully executed reboot can somehow pull this train wreck back on track and win over the fans they've already lost. But here's the deal, if this reboot tanks, it's not just a failure. It'll be the final nail in the coffin for this once beloved brand. Insiders are saying the new version is going to stick closely to the 1937 plot, which feels a little like a copy-paste job of the original film. Sure, they'll throw in some subtle updates, but let's be honest, Disney's track record with updates hasn't been great. If those updates mess with the classic vibe people love, this whole project could end up just being another botched attempt to fix what wasn't really broken in the first place. Disney needs to decide if they're going to honor the magic of the original or continue to butcher it with a half-baked modern spin.
Tell me if this is attractive to you. Like, does this, imagine you invested into her being the face of the movie and she's the main character and she's trying to promote the movie. Would this make you want to go watch the movie when she's starring in it and she's the main character?
So now Disney's saying that the changes they're making will be respectful, not revisionist. Oh really? Respectful? Huh? After the last disaster, you think anyone believes that? Suddenly they're all about reintroducing timeless themes with modern grace. Hold up, weren't you just butchering classics with your forced updates? Now you're acting like you've been honoring the original all along. Nice try. One producer claims they're not trying to fix what isn't broken, but just reintroducing what was perfectly fine in the first place. Wow, really? So you're telling me everything was fine, and yet you're still messing with it? And this so-called shift in tone is just a sharp departure from the last train wreck, which everyone saw as too eager to tear down the original. Now you're back with a respectful approach. That's like saying, oops, sorry for ruining it, but we'll try again. And then of course casting rumors are swirling, but Disney's not saying anything about it. Seriously? You're still keeping secrets? Just tell us who you're casting so this drama can stop. Enough already. At this point, it's not even exciting. It's just tiring.
She destroyed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of IP for Disney, but she also has destroyed her career and the careers of anybody who worked on the movie.
Some insiders close to the production are saying that Disney is looking for a lead actress who embodies classic Hollywood elegance with a focus on charm, relatability, and vocal talent. Oh really? Now suddenly you care about charm and talent. In the previous film, you gave more importance to drama. And now suddenly you remember the vocal talent of the actress. What about your previous failures? These are just the bare minimum expectations, Disney. And then the off-screen comments that hijacked the last film's attention. Now you're tightening up the media training to keep the messaging in sync with the film's themes. Wow, so now media training is going to fix everything? No matter how much you control your media, your vision still sucks. Now you're adding tighter protocols, but everyone knows if your ideas are still outdated. All of this is useless.
The producers, far left-wing activists in Hollywood, are turning on her, and Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances on their media platforms. Kind of tough.
Oh, so now Disney's suddenly all about cohesive storytelling after learning the hard way, huh? Well, I guess it took a massive disaster for them to finally get the memo. Leaked documents from earlier this year spilled the tea on what went down behind the scenes, revealing that Disney's marketing, creative, and public relations departments couldn't even agree on what color the sky was. It's almost like they were playing a game of who can mess this up the most. During the rollout of the Zegler film, internal disagreements ran so deep that it resulted in a messaging train wreck. Talk about hitting rock bottom. Instead of a smooth promotional campaign, what we got was a series of conflicting messages that made it seem like Disney couldn't decide whether they were promoting a movie or a joke. The campaign was so inconsistent that it actually seemed like they were trying to confuse the audience on purpose. Seriously, how hard is it to stick to a plan? Maybe this time, instead of focusing on cohesive storytelling, Disney should focus on getting their own house in order. If your departments, can't even agree on basic ideas, don't expect us to buy into your fancy new narrative. This whole thing was like watching a circus act, except no one was laughing.
We'll still offend the dwarves, but we'll CGI dwarves. So we'll guarantee no employment for little people while getting rid of this other component that warranted CGI. It was the worst decision they could possibly make.
Oh, so now Disney's finally focusing on cohesive storytelling, huh? Well, after learning the hard way, I guess. It's like they waited for the entire world to roast them before realizing that their genius ideas weren't exactly genius. Leaked documents from earlier this year give us an inside scoops of what was really going on behind the scenes. Marketing, creative, and public relations departments in Disney couldn't even agree on which direction to face for the premiere. I mean, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar studio here, and they were so internally divided that their marketing campaign for Zegler's film was basically like watching a group of people trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while blindfolded. Now, let's talk about the promotional campaign. That was an absolute hot mess. It felt like the whole thing was a game of broken telephone, where no one could even get the basic message right. First they said one thing, then the next day it was a completely different vibe. It was almost as if Disney thought, hey, let's confuse the audience as much as possible and see if they still show up. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. The campaign was as inconsistent as the plot of the film itself. Talk about digging your own grave. And now, after all that chaos, Disney has decided that cohesive storytelling is the solution? Really? Sure, let's give that a try. Right after they fix their internal issues first. Maybe if they spent as much time making sure their teams were on the same page as they do coming up with new slogans, their messaging might actually make sense this time. Until then, all the talk about storytelling sounds more like a cover-up for their bigger problem. They have no idea what they're doing anymore. Disney, if you're really serious about cohesive storytelling, maybe start by cohesively working with your teams. Just a thought.
You could look at the fact that she has been sabotaging this film for years at this point, all in this sort of pursuit of entitlement.
So now Disney's finally putting stricter oversight on the Snow White reboot? Yeah, that's cute. After dropping the ball so hard last time, they've got no choice but to micromanage everything this time around. But guess what? It's not just the film's reputation on the line now. No, Disney's merchandise is about to burn them even harder than the film's bad press. Remember that amazing Snow White merchandise from the previous release? It was such a massive flop that not your major retailers started slashing prices like they were trying to get rid of some cursed relics. I mean, toys and apparel that were just released were so unpopular that they became clearance bin specials in record time. Disney probably thought they'd be raking in the cash, but instead they were left discounting their way into oblivion. It's honestly a miracle their stock wasn't tossed out with the toys. Now, in the face of all this public embarrassment, Disney's decided to take a tighter grip on the reboot. Well, good for them, I guess. But here's the thing, if the last film was anything to go by, no amount of oversight is going to help if the core problems are still there. The issue wasn't just bad marketing, it was the entire approach to the story. So now they're talking about focusing on the film rather than just band-aiding the fallout. But let's be real, it sounds like they're just trying to cover up a massive train wreck with some fresh paint. We'll see if this time they actually fix things, or if this reboot is just another desperate attempt to salvage what they clearly should have never messed with in the first place.
Every way that Disney changed the story, it changed it for the worse.
We've got reports coming out from Disney's consumer products division that tell a very sad story. Millions in unsold inventory from the previous Snow White flop. I mean, talk about a financial disaster. They probably had to shovel away a mountain of unsold toys and merchandise, praying to every fairy tale god that their bottom line wouldn't end up in ruins. Substantial hits doesn't even begin to cover it. The damage was real, and now Disney's scrambling to prevent another commercial collapse. Analysts are straight up saying that another flop linked to one of their core properties could send Disney into a tailspin, and honestly, they can't afford to keep pushing out failures. So in the face of these financial nightmares, what does Disney do? Oh, they tap a new team of creatives to lead the reboot effort. Let's see if they actually know what they're doing this time, or if they're just throwing fresh faces at a problem that needs a real solutions. Because let's be real, no amount of new blood is going to fix a core issue if the foundation is already cracked. This is a make or break moment for Disney. Either they get it right or they'll be staring down the barrel of another costly misfire.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about
she's gonna die.
true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
I guess after everything from excessive rebranding to pointless controversy in their last attempt, Disney's leadership realized they need to get back to their roots. Or at least pretend to. And the early press release? Hilariously humble. They're acknowledging all the mistakes without calling out any names, because accountability apparently isn't their thing. Instead, it's like, yeah, we messed up, sorry, but trust us, we'll do better this time. Sure, Disney, because mere promising change without delivering is totally the key to winning back fans. Let's just hope this time they don't overthink and try to reinvent the wheel. We all know how that worked out last time. Disney, once the titan of animated classics, is back at it again, trying to fix the mess they created with their disastrous Snow White remake. After months of fan outrage, criticism, and the kind of backlash that's louder than a kid on a sugar rush, Disney has decided to reinvent their approach. And guess what? They've finally decided that maybe, just maybe, the original creators might know a thing or two about storytelling. Who would have thought? They're finally bringing back legacy animators who worked on the original Princess classics. What a genius move. It only took them a disastrous, cringe-worthy flop to realize they needed to return to the people who actually made Disney what it is today. Now, Disney's new vision is to restore the tone and heart of the original, but it begs the question, wasn't that the whole point in the first place? Oh wait, they didn't get it the first time. Who knew? But don't worry folks, Disney's not just recruiting the experts from their heyday for nostalgia's sake. Oh no, this time they're promising to bring back everything that made the original a classic. Those beloved characters, musical numbers, and of course the magic. You know, the things they ripped out of the last movie. Remember when they decided that the prince didn't matter and they'd rather make Snow White some empowered feminist hero who literally couldn't exist without taking a giant sledgehammer to the original story? Yeah, that didn't go over too well, so now they're suddenly on the let's keep things classic train. Too little, too late? And let's talk about that humble press release Disney threw our way, the one where they finally admitted, yeah, we might have messed up a little. Oh really? You don't say, Disney. What a revelation. They went on about how they learned from their mistakes and missteps. But let's not forget, the same studio who gave us this Snow White mess also thought remaking Lion King with CGI animals was a good idea. Yes, Disney, we're all watching your redemption arc carefully with a large bowl of popcorn. And let's not forget how they're now shifting their focus to tightening up media training protocols so that nobody says something dumb this time. You remember how in the previous film, the lead actress had more controversial opinions than actual screen time, right? Remember when she said that the prince was irrelevant and Snow White didn't need him? Yeah, that sure went over well with fans. So now, they're gonna make sure no one puts their foot in their mouth. Great strategy, guys. Couldn't have figured that out earlier. And speaking of the casting, rumors are already flying around like crazy about who might play Snow White this time. Apparently, they want someone who embodies classic Hollywood elegance with a little charm, relatability, and, you guessed it, vocal talent. You mean the things that they skipped in the last movie? Now they're bringing in the big guns, real Hollywood professionals who won't go off script. Amazing. But hey, remember how the last film cast was a disaster because it seemed like they picked actors who couldn't even read the room? This time they're trying to get it right, but we'll see if that actually happens. Now, don't get too comfortable thinking Disney's finally got it together. Oh no, they're still Disney, the company that thought putting a polarizing feminist twist on a timeless fairy tale would be a crowd pleaser. They've learned their lesson, or at least they say they have. They've got a new team, a new strategy, and some guidance from animators who actually know how to tell a story. But let's be honest, when you've already botched a classic like Snow White, it's hard to believe that this new direction won't be just another half-baked attempt to cash in on nostalgia without actually respecting it. And for the love of all things magical, can we please stop with the updates that modernize everything? We don't need Snow White with an iPhone and a feminist agenda that completely ignores what made the original movie so magical. Can we just go back to the basics and focus on good storytelling instead of trying to repackage the same tired tale in a brand new shiny box? But hey, if you think Disney has finally got it right this time, feel free to cross your fingers and hope for the best. After all, they've only lost their audience's trust with one botched remake after another, right? No pressure. If you're still sticking around to see if Disney can actually get this one right, then be sure to subscribe to Sizzle Gossip for all the juicy updates. You know I'll be here, sizzling every move they make. Let's see how this turns out.